You ready to do this, Stu?
I am ready. Punch it, Chewy!
Welcome to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton and my co-pilot is Stu Jones.
That's me!
We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 105. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Stu, I'm coming at you from Michigan right now. I know you just got back from Fort Knoxville, Tennessee. We've crisscrossed the continent at the same time. What is going on? How are you doing, my traveling friend?
Oh, not so bad, my traveling friend.
That's a new thing. I like the sound of it.
We're taking it live across the nation, coast to coast.
Podcast of the Traveling Pants. I don't know, something. We'll figure it out.
Let's not do well, I guess hopefully I'm taking pants with me when I go. I do know that you're actually you're traveling a bit further north than I am, and I know this last week was murder on travel, like due to planes coming out of the Northeast and everything. I know I had delays going out to Tennessee. Sure enough, I had delays coming back from Tennessee. Fortunately, it was only a delay on the first part of my flight. I had a 5-hour layover in North Carolina. That got shortened to 2.5 hours. So
that's
good. That was actually a little bit of a blessing in disguise. But I mean, before we go into your stuff, how has your flight stuff been going? Everything all right there?
So I had two flights. The first flight was from Salt Lake to Detroit, and that was fine. No delays. There was a little kid behind me that was kind of crying and making a lot of noise, and I didn't mind it too much. As a father of two young boys, you learn to just kind of tune that stuff out, and it doesn't bug me. But the lady next to me, it was driving her nuts. She kept giving me the little
Yeah, I'm usually the one making that look, so I totally sympathize with her.
And I mean, I get it, but at the same time, it's like, you know what? You're almost just as annoying as the kid is back there to a lot of people. Just relax. You know, those parents are trying to keep their kids quiet the best they possibly can. They're trying to get home, like, you know, a little bit of understanding maybe, but.
Yeah, it's definitely uncomfortable. Like when you're stuck in a box for 5 hours, you know, to have that screaming going on nonstop. I mean, there's just so much sanity that some people can maintain. I don't necessarily do well with that myself, but I mean, I get it. But
you could put headphones on. You can do something to kind of help.
When it's high pitched enough, headphones don't do anything.
That didn't bug me. But then I got to Detroit. I was supposed to have a 45-minute layover. Yeah, that stretched into about a 3-hour layover. All sorts of flights being canceled and delayed massively in Chicago due to the big snowstorm. And so I sat in the airplane on the tarmac for about 2 hours.
Oh.
Yeah, it was long. It took a while. And so I was planning to get into Grand Rapids because I only had to fly back about a 25-minute flight to get here. And then I had to pick up a rental car and drive for an hour to get to my hotel that I'm staying at for work. And I didn't get in till about like 1 a.m. last night, technically this morning. So
yeah, this is a rough time for travel, and especially with that. I mean, the storms in the Northeast are pretty much they're brutal right now, and it's been going on for a week and a half. So
yep.
Hey, well, I mean, I'm glad you made it there all right, and obviously you're alive and well, and you're podcasting, unless you're podcasting from the grave, which, with your tenacity, I believe you would actually do somehow. So
This is really the ghost of Spencer. He died in a plane crash, and I'm just an ethereal
I get your potbelly cooker.
specter. Hey, I told you, I'm leaving that to you in my will.
I'm just, you may want to revise that will just for my peace of mind.
Done.
No, okay, so travel out of the way. I had mentioned that we were going to go to an escape room.
Yeah, how was that?
That was amazing.
Yes.
So first of all, what I thought was the beginner was actually the intermediate. They have a couple beginner rooms, but they are labeled for kids plus. Which, I mean, I have to somehow find my way back there with Morgana. One of them is a superhero one where it's not really so much an escape room, but all the kids that participate are trying to they discover that they have a secret power, then they're discovering through the escape room how to use their secret powers, and then it all kind of comes together to where they have to team up using their powers to open this box that, hits the win thing and whatnot. And they showed us around after we did the escape room, and that one definitely got my interest. Like, I kind of wish we had done that one. They also had a Wizard of Oz one, which was cute enough, but yeah, the superhero one, though, I told Morgana about it after that they had Wizard of Oz and superhero. She was like, oh, I need to do the superhero one. I was like, yes, you do.
So there's some escape rooms in Salt Lake, and I know there's one in Sandy as well. You may want to look and see if there's some a little more local.
Well, let me get to so this escape room, they tout themselves anyway, and I have no way to know that this is true or not. I am going to be checking out other escape rooms. Obviously, Salt Lake makes a lot of sense.
Sure.
But they have one thing that they tout that they do differently is it's an interactive escape room where they actually have an actor that participates in it. And it's a drama and a scene that actually plays out as you're going through the escape room rather than just a bunch of puzzles to solve sequentially. They actually have a couple points where they interact with you and things change. There was so we did this one where I'll just set it up. Basically that we were there to apply for jobs in an old plantation. And it was for someone in Texas that had just struck oil. And so I was applying to be a cook, and Ellie was applying to be a housekeeper. So we start this off with this weird little awkward interview thing because I wasn't really knowing what to expect. But we get into it, and then he mentions, regardless of the job that you have, everyone's primary function here on the plantation is to care for the baby Edgar. And so he takes us into the room, which was to introduce us to Edgar. But Edgar was missing and was not in his crib, and instead there was an elephant. And then it's okay, well, I'm going to go search the rest of the mansion. You guys start here, search for clues. Then the thing begins.
Yeah.
And so we started doing that and putting things together. Ellie and I definitely had different strengths, but there were not other people there. I was expecting other people to be a part of it, but it was just the two of us.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but she was good at some of the word solving stuff, and when it came to numbers and things like that, I was a wizard with that stuff. We got. It took us a while to get through the first room. Apparently normal. I don't know if they're just going to tell us that, but we finally made it through. And my first experience with an escape room, it was better than I would have expected it to be, with just the intricacy of the puzzles, finding different clues at the same time and not knowing which go to solving which part of the puzzle. But it was just all really clever, and it was all really well done. And then my favorite part was there was this wall that had 4 panels on it that were the Itsy Bitsy Spider, basically. And they were out of order, but I noticed that, rearranging them into the order Sing, S-I-N-G exclamation mark, it worked out to Sing, and then the little icons, drawings, whatever, kind of spelled out the Itsy Bitsy Spider in order. So, and the clue was Sing. And so we sang the Itsy Bitsy Spider song, and then that whole panel just opened up into this whole nother secret room.
Uh-huh.
And it was this really small crawl space. You didn't have to crawl, but you had to duck down to go into it. And it was a traditional murder room. And there were saws and plantation tools, and there was this poem that was written in chalk on this chalkboard, and like really creepy murder-esque kind of thing. And that was like we were only halfway through the room. And I was thinking that we were done, but we finally got to it all, and we solved the whole thing with 31 seconds remaining.
Nice. Well done.
And we had to like go back and forth between the rooms and kind of put things that we thought made sense one way in the first room, had to kind of rethink them after everything in the second room applied. And I mean, it was brilliant. It turned out that the baby was actually in a ceiling tile. I mean, it's this really horrible little rubber doll with a horrible toupee on it. But at the very end of it was this ratchet that I had to turn, and I was turning it, and nothing was happening. I was like, okay, something's wrong. But, all these clues are there, and it also is very specific for safety reasons. Don't touch this thing, whatever. And so I'm like, okay, fine. And I just keep clanking and clanking and clanking. And finally, Ellie noted that the ceiling tile was coming down, and she like points up to it. And so I like kept going and rolling it down, and the baby was in this little bassinet in the ceiling tile. Crazy. But I mean, it was just like, it was not, the human actor component was not so overdone as to be a distraction, but it was just there to add some levels to it that I felt made it better than just a static room without any participation. So yeah, so we made it with 31 seconds. There were all kinds of different puzzles. Loved it. They have a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde room, which is the advanced room. Which would be something that I would definitely want to check out sometime later. But yeah, so I'm all hyped up. I've got the bug. I want to go check out all of them in Salt Lake. Everywhere I go, I want to, because I feel like instead of just different components to a room, there is, I guess, a different level of theatrics to them that's possible, and different ways that you can interact with them and stuff. And so I'm excited to kind of explore that medium of entertainment a lot more.
I've done a prison bus one where they had an inmate that was still locked up inside the bus, and if you got too close to him and he could touch you, then you got locked up and you couldn't participate anymore. So other people in your group, but yet at the same time, like he had like information and or like a key that if you could swap with him, he would give you, but if he did that, it increased like the length of his chain, which increased how much further he could move to try to touch people in your group. And so it was kind of like you could figure all this out without interacting with him, or you could cut a bunch of your time off and interact with him, but it could work against you in the end. And I thought that was kind of a cool concept. And it was an actor, and kind of like you were saying, it could have been very distracting, but it really wasn't. But yeah, I like that. It's definitely a fun thing. I think we should do that together, man. Let's do a Fortress of Nerditude escape room. That
sounds like a great idea. And that would be an escape room club. An escape club.
Yeah. This sounds like a good thing. I think we can make that happen.
We need to make that happen.
Yeah. Well, good. So the thing that our super friends are dying to know, like I got so many emails about this week. How was your loaded baked potato casserole?
Salad. Loaded baked potato salad.
Loaded baked potato, whatever. Goodness.
It was received very well.
Nice.
We went to Ellie's sister's for Thanksgiving. And there was, I guess also, her brother-in-law brought a friend from work kind of thing. Everyone loved the loaded baked potato salad, and that guy was like, that was the only thing he wanted seconds of. And I did only make a half, like it makes a ton, so half was still enough. But
so you made a half ton.
I made a half ton, yes. But yeah, no, it went splendidly. Everyone loved it. I'm glad I did it at the quantity that I did. Everyone had enough, but it wasn't too much, so settle down. But I mean, the rest of the stuff was really good too. I guess they don't usually have pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. I don't know if it's a locale thing or not, but I explained this to Morgana and I asked, what is without pumpkin pie? What is Thanksgiving anyway? And she said a Thursday, and I feel that's appropriate.
Wow.
Yeah. But no, it was fun. We also played a game of Love Letter, which if you don't know is just this little card game, really quick and easy to play. But it's a kind of simple deduction kind of thing, and everyone's kind of cutthroat against each other, and I dominated that, of course. Should be expected. But no, that was a lot of fun. So yeah, and then like we mentioned, we did see the movie on Monday, and then we podcast. Ellie joined the podcast later. That was fun. And then just a lot of hanging out over the weekend stuff, and then flight delays. So yeah. But yeah, so I had the flight delays. Flight went okay. Got home later than expected. Baggage claim was the thing that killed me this time. 45 minutes for baggage claim. That was ridiculous. But yeah, then everything was fine. And then I guess apparently my daughter tried to call me when I was on the plane. I got a couple Facebook Messenger messages from her asking if I was okay. I didn't tell her that I was just leaving on the plane, whatever. So finally we synced up. She called me this morning. Turns out I'm going to be a grandfather. And then, yeah, I went to work.
Hey, congratulations. That's awesome, man. Trying to slip that in there all sly like. Listen to you.
What?
Yeah. Everything just trying to get a hold of me. I'm going to be a grandfather. No big deal. No big deal. Nothing to see here. Don't pay attention.
Yep. No, this is, that's something I've been afraid of for a while. And if Katie, if you're ever listening to this, I'm sorry, but you already know, I've told you. She's been very friendly with the boys throughout most of her teenage and adult years so far. But I'm glad that it wasn't anything that it was ever kind of like, whoops, hey, by the way, she's actually seeing a guy now. They've been together for a while. They spent Thanksgiving together, had a really nice Thanksgiving, I guess, with his folks. So yeah. So anyway, she's on that path. And then I'm going to be talking about all the grandkid stories and Facebook and all that, as if I don't do that enough with Morgana.
Episode 105, Grandpappy Stu.
Oh, boy. Let's not throw that in the title, shall we?
That's pretty cool, though, Stu. I mean, that is pretty cool.
I'm stoked.
It's a little weird to think that I know how old you are and you're not really old enough to be a grandfather.
I know. And that's okay, though.
I'm not that far off either. I mean,
I think,
granted, my boys are only about to turn 6 and 5, and I started a little later, but
I didn't even realize it. So I'm not supposed to spread that news just yet, just in case things happen, yada, yada. Somebody in this house is actually within earshot of that news and isn't supposed to know, so I need to be careful about that.
So does Mo listen to the podcast like my boys do now?
And now she definitely won't, at least not until her birthday, which is when
it's kind of safe.
When she's gonna, and that's when Katie's gonna tell her. So,
and when is that?
January 2nd.
Oh, that's my sister's birthday too. Okay, so not too long from now. 5-6 weeks, something like that.
Yep.
Well, cool. Anything else exciting, that you want to nonchalantly try to throw out there?
No. I mean, nobody wants to hear about the $2.5 billion I won in the lottery, so no.
Nah, that's no big deal.
That's my week. That's enough, thanks.
So let me try to back up. Yeah, because I'm trying to remember. It's been a crazy week, and it feels like we haven't talked in a long time, only because we're recording a day later than usual. But let's see, Thanksgiving, I think I told you we weren't going to cook food at all because it was going to be a small little family affair.
Right.
So we picked up a hot meal from Cracker Barrel, and it was turkey and ham and all the fixins. And it was pretty good. The stuffing was really, really, really dry, and so no one really ate that. So the next day I made some stovetop, and that got tore into.
I've had meals out of stovetop stuffing. That stuff is laced with crack or something.
Seriously.
Also, one thing that I noted last week when you had mentioned that, I don't know why I was thinking it, but it wasn't Cracker Barrel that we got it from. It was Marie Callender's that we got it from last year.
Oh, gotcha.
So, very different thing.
Yeah. Well, good thing to note. I did find that I enjoyed the fact that we just literally opened up takeout and dished it on plates, and everyone had a good meal. And then when we were done, we just threw away, all the leftovers, like a day or two later, whatever was still kind of left,
Right.
like the little bit of gravy that didn't have any mashed potatoes to go with it or whatever. It was all in little containers. There was no like real cleanup for all the cooking. It was low key. We went and saw Wreck-It Ralph 2 earlier in the day.
Nice.
Yeah, really, really cool movie. I was a little tired, so I may have taken about a small 10-minute nap in the middle of the movie somewhere.
You missed the most important part, didn't you?
I missed something because when I woke back up, I was like, what is this going on? And then I had to have some people explain to me what I missed. So I do want to go see it again because I did enjoy it. And I have to say, the scene that you see in the trailer with the Disney princesses and Vanellope, that whole Disney kind of portion of the film was probably the best written, funniest part of that entire movie. I mean, it was really, really, really well done.
I might have to go see that with Mo on Saturday. I've got her this weekend, and we're doing an all-day, no computer, no tablet, no nothing, just spending time together thing until she goes to sleep kind of deal.
You should. I think you guys would have a lot of fun together, and I think she'd enjoy it a lot. So I highly recommend that. That gets my 2 thumbs up approval. On Saturday, Brita was supposed to go in and get LASIK done.
Uh-oh.
And
you say
supposed to, yes. We went there, and they wanted to do a measurement of her eyes to double check, and the measurements were wildly off the first measurements. And we were kind of worried, and they said, well, let's look at this again. And because he was worried, because when they dilate your eyes, they take the measurements that they're going to use when they actually do the LASIK.
Right.
But he was just doing the normal kind of refractive, look in here, read the little thing, tell me the letters you see. And Brita's eyes weren't coming up with the same numbers. And so he said, this could be a thing where like your eyes are like focused, not focusing right. And so he had her close her eyes for like 10 minutes in the dark. And then she opened up her eyes again, and then she started, and her vision had changed and gotten better than the first reading. And he says, okay. He says, you're having a problem focusing. Something to do with like when you wear glasses, if the glasses are too strong or not strong enough, your eyes kind of really tend to strain a little bit more to focus in to, kind of sharpen up the image.
Right.
And apparently she's been doing this for quite a long time. And so it was affecting how she was seeing things. And so then he's like, okay, look, we can't do this. We need to dilate your eyes right now and then retest your eyes dilated to make sure we're getting the right numbers. So they dilated her eyes, they retested her, and the numbers actually matched up to what the first doctor had done, because she did it at one place and then was coming here to do the surgery. So basically what it turns out is going to happen is this upcoming Saturday, a few hours after I get back home, we'll get up in the morning, take her, and she'll do the LASIK. And there's a chance that what'll have to happen is after the LASIK is done, she may have to put on contacts for like a month at one strength, and then go down a little bit magnitude power,
kind of,
and then go down again.
Retrain her eyes to focus.
Yes. Yep, and retrain her eyes to focus. And so she was really bummed out about that. I was bummed for her because I know how excited she was, and it was perfectly timed last weekend. But then, she didn't get to do it, and so she was pretty sad and depressed. But I told her, hey, better to make sure that this is right and you're getting it done correctly, because it's your vision, and if you screw that up, you're hosed.
There are definitely botched LASIK, examples out there to see. And I mean, as bummed as I'm sure she was, because I know how excited Amber was, and it was crystal clear. After her eyes, the light kind of faded from that, and she could open her eyes about 2 hours later. It was, she said she could see perfectly for the first time, and it was a miraculous shift. And so I get that, but it's a lot better that you get it done right. And also that it wasn't a hard no.
Right. Yes.
Because that happens a lot too. And if that has to happen, I'm probably a hard no myself, but she's delayed a week. Hopefully that still works out. And end result, if it's a week of pain in the buttedness, but she can still, get the LASIK and it ends up working out, then it's going to be a life changer.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I went through it. I mean, I know what Amber was talking about. Like, it was, an hour later, I could see perfect. And I kind of snuck behind her, and I was checking my vision, looking into the little mirror and read it. And I could still read it 2015. So, I'm like 7 years out from my LASIK. So I felt pretty good about that, about myself. But, yeah. So,
You are a narcissist.
I know. And I'm looking at myself in the mirror now, and I'm making faces. Which is a thing sidetrack. I'm going to go down this rabbit hole because I'm doing this with Charlie already. Years and years and years ago, I used to do acting in high school and whatnot. And I used to sometimes just sit in front of a mirror and I would think, okay, I look sad. And then I would come up with the sad face. I'm like, okay, look sad, but look depressed and sad. And so I would try to change, my facial expression. Look happy, look ecstatic, look shocked, look excited. And I would just literally sit in front of a mirror for hours making faces to mimic the emotion I was thinking of. And now, usually it's after I give Charlie and Jackson a bath, I'll be drying them off. And he's like, Daddy, pick me up. I was like, okay. So I'll pick him up and he's like, look in the mirror. He says, okay, do sad puppy dog. I'm like, okay, so we'll do a sad puppy dog face. He goes, Daddy, do a happy puppy dog. And so we'll do a happy puppy dog face. And then he's like, do an angry puppy dog. And so we'll make faces in the mirror. And where I'm sitting in my hotel room, there's literally a mirror right behind my Surface Pro that I'm recording on. And so, like, as I'm looking in the mirror, I can give it the old Spock eyebrow treatment look. And anyway.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall. This was our entire pre-show prep.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I was just making faces. Happy puppy, scared puppy, angry puppy. Yes. Anyway, I don't know how I got on that. But anyway, I did, and so be it. I did start a new video game while I was flying. And you may be asking yourself, oh, did you take the Nintendo Switch? Did you, start Diablo? No, I did not.
I knew you wouldn't.
Well, here's the thing. I actually left my Nintendo Switch behind because the boys are enjoying Mario Kart, and my wife asked me to leave it behind because she can actually have them play Mario Kart for like half an hour, and she can like do laundry or get some, peace and sanity. And so I said, sure. So I took my PS Vita with me.
Oh my.
And I said, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to start a game that I've never played, that I always kind of wanted to, that's kind of like a bucket list game for me that a lot of people I know enjoyed, but it maybe wasn't the biggest critical success as its predecessor was. So I started playing Final Fantasy VIII on my PS Vita.
What?
On the trip out here. And I'm about 6.5 hours into it already.
Oh, good. You only have about another 94 left to go.
That's right. But I'm enjoying it so far. I think I'm almost to the point where I'm hooked. Because usually in the Final Fantasy games and in a lot of RPGs, I feel like you really don't hit that hook point to where you're really like, okay, now I really want to play this game. I'm invested until you're about 8-10 hours into the game. At least for me, that's always about the point where I feel like now they've got their hooks in me. I want to know what's going to happen next. I want to figure more of the story out and explore and whatnot. And I feel like I'm almost right at that point. Like enough stuff's kind of starting to happen. The story's starting to come along a little bit, but I know that I'm just probably around the corner from the first big story arc that's going to hook me in. So
yeah, for me, that point is about 2 hours in. Otherwise, I've got like 1,900 other games on Steam I could give it, a couple hours to.
Yeah, the problem is with RPGs, man, 2 hours in, you're still like really just barely dipping your toes in it. So I always feel like you gotta.
Yeah.
It's like a good book. You can read the first chapter, and the first chapter might not hook you, but somewhere in chapter 3, something happens that all of a sudden, just draws you in, and then you're invested.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a game on PS4, Persona 4, and I've made it a few hours into that, and I've not got to the invested part yet where I want to keep playing it. And the couple people that I've talked to are like, you haven't even started to see the game yet. And I'm like, if I have to spend that much time to get to the game, then that's probably not a game that's going to interest me in the first place. I mean, I'm told there's so much more after I leave where I'm at, but it's funny you mentioned that because another thing I did, and I'll talk a little bit more about this in a bit, but Humble Bundle, they have an annual pass where it's like $12 a month, and then you just get a smorgasbord of games every month that you get to activate for free, whatever. I had not done that since April, and I had an annual subscription that started in January.
Oh.
So today, for some reason, because of the thing I'll talk about in a minute, I went back through and checked all my old game redemption things. Everything from May, I hadn't even redeemed yet, and I had some stuff in there. There was actually one game that I've bought since then that I wish I would have. But there were all kinds of games in there. One of them that I got that was part of my annual subscription was Overwatch.
Really?
Like the full release version of Overwatch. And then the next couple months were loot boxes for that. So I have a copy of Overwatch and didn't even know it.
Wow.
Same with Destiny 2, though the funny thing is a month later, Blizzard gave away Destiny 2 for free anyway.
Right.
But yeah, there's a whole crap load of games, like a lot of games that I've been wanting to try and have on my wish list, but never bought them because I wanted to wait till they were on sale. That they're on sale, I don't have any money. So I basically unlocked, I actually had a warning from Steam saying I had too many new game activations after I had gotten to number 50, and I still had 3 months to go.
Wow.
So it was like 91 games that I owned that I didn't know I owned till today.
Well, there you go.
So now I have some stuff to do.
You got some stuff to catch up on for sure.
I got to beat them all.
Humble Bundle, gotta beat them all.
It's the new Pokemon.
Whatever. Which is funny because when I sing Pokemon, the little bit, gotta catch 'em all. Jackson, my youngest, says, "Daddy, that's not what it says. It says Pokemon gotta have a ball." I was like, okay, sure, close enough. Yeah, that works. It's pretty funny. I'm in Michigan. Today was my first full day. I toured around a bunch of the facilities here with my company that I work for. Got some good FaceTime with my boss. Also had a bunch of stuff going on back at the home office that needed my attention as well. And so it was kind of a crazy day. There was a password reset that got pushed out today for most of our users, and so people are getting locked out and struggling with that somewhat. And so it was nice that I was totally away from my desk and not able to really do a lot of support. And so a lot of people, I got a lot of messages. I'm like, okay, trying to walk them through on the phone and what to do. And
you need a minion,
right? And then tonight, my boss had the entire IT team over to his house. And him and his wife made some chili, and he used he's got a pellet smoker, and he did some chicken drumsticks on there, and we kind of sat down and talked and just kind of all hung out and had dinner together. So it was kind of a cool first day here. I've got another 2 full days here, and then about half a day on Friday, and then I'll get to fly home and hopefully avoid the massive delays on that end as well.
Good luck with that.
So I will let you know next week how that goes.
Maybe you'll be podcasting from the airport.
Right. Coming to you live from the Detroit airport.
Hey, I actually like the Detroit airport. No, it's the Memphis airport. Never mind. I hate the Detroit airport. Never mind. Disregard.
I was like, I don't know. I mean, I flew Delta. I had to walk a really long distance to get to the next terminal, and I was a little worried about the time issue. And then, of course, with the delays, it didn't end up mattering. But
I got the two dirty cities that I absolutely hate mixed up. So,
gotcha.
But Memphis actually has I really don't like Memphis, but I had to connect there once, and they even have a veterans lounge in the Memphis airport. So just for being a veteran, I got to go hang out, have drinks, and wait for my flight, and it was cool.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, Stu, I think it's time. Do you think we should?
Well, I have my tank all loaded up with high explosive anti-tank rounds, for the express purpose of murdering Bothans.
Well, I mean, since you've got it loaded up, we might as well.
Yeah, all right. On the way, boom.
I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
Okay, Stu, we've officially murdered our Bothans for the week. What do you have for me in Rebel Intelligence?
Besides a lot of carnage from all the parts.
Yeah.
Well, something even more glorious than that. I knew that they were remaking Lion King. We know that they're kind of redoing the whole, taking the CGI approach to classic animated films. They did that with Jungle Book. And now we're seeing that with Lion King, and I have to admit, I was a bit hesitant. I kind of think it's overdone. I don't see the purpose for it. It's just another reboot mechanism, yada yada. We've been through all that. I was not prepared for the sheer awesomeness that this teaser was going to be. Mm-hmm. I mean, this is like a solid mix of CGI and real world, filmmaking. It's a shot by shot remake of the original animated, but with the new CGI.
Right.
It's glorious. The animals are very well done with the animation. And I think the thing I was not expecting, I didn't have any idea, but James Earl Jones is reprising his role. And so the original monologue in that opening scene from the original trailer is done with that as well. It is impossible not to feel that same spirit of the movie when I saw the first trailer as seeing this one now. It's gorgeous. Must see.
So Lion King for me is like one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. It is an amazing film just through and through, top to bottom. And when I was watching the trailer, like, first of all, like, it hits all the feels. And I'm just like, oh man, it brought me back, even though this is new and it's live, kind of live action. But then when I saw that it was a shot for shot remake of the original trailer with the voiceover and everything, like, that is like a special kind of nostalgia kick.
Oh yeah.
That I think just can't be matched.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I do love The Lion King, and don't get me wrong, and there are many Disney movies that I could take a pass on. Lion King has always been a favorite for myself with my older daughter, and then, of course, when Morgana was old enough to watch it. And but still, I just, with a movie like that, does it really need to be remade? Is it really going to do anything more? And very happy to apparently be wrong here if the trailer is any indication of what the movie's going to do.
So I did a little looking on this as well, because I did see this and I did watch it. In the first day, it was viewed online 224 million times.
Not surprised.
Which makes it the second largest single day viewing of a trailer, which was at 238 million, Avengers Infinity War. So I gotta say that for as excited as people were for Avengers Infinity War and knowing that was going to be a big thing, a culmination of like 10 years of buildup, here we are only 14 million behind for a movie that came out in 1994. To me, that says that I'm not the only one that loves The Lion King.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, word of mouth about the majesty, because that's really the word here, the majesty of this teaser definitely is going to pull a lot more people in as well. So,
you said that we always kind of talk about, remakes that don't need to be remade, da 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 da. If you would have asked me, I would have said, yeah, don't remake The Lion King. It's perfect. But with the way Disney's doing these live action adaptations of their animated films, and then seeing the trailer for this, I'm all in. I want to go see this thing.
Yeah, I want to see this. Now, that doesn't mean I'm all in with the whole initiative of them doing this with all the movies. For me, Jungle Book, bleh. I did not really enjoy Jungle Book much at all.
I thought it was okay, but I know they're going to do a live-action remake of Aladdin.
Yep.
And we've seen a trailer for that. So, I mean, it's just a matter of time. We're going to get a live-action Little Mermaid. We'll get a live-action, a
Dumbo.
Pocahontas. Dumbo, yeah, there was the Dumbo one. I think it's just a matter of time, and we're going to get, Sleeping Beauty and Cinderella and, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and that could actually be kind of cool. But
I think Snow White is probably the only one out of that entire list that I would even like think about going, hey, that might actually be pretty cool.
I'll tell you one we won't see a live action remake of. Song of the South. Disney will never touch that one again. Just saying.
We'll just ignore that part of our past.
Anyway.
Hey, they should fire themselves for their past behavior.
Ooh, can they?
Well, they can do anything with Disney.
Right. So speaking of a movie that's not Disney, but is going to be owned by Disney, but probably will be ignored by Disney. Deadpool 2, we've talked about how it's getting a Christmas re-release. Yep. And it's basically called Once Upon a Deadpool. And a little over a year ago, this is kind of interesting. A little over a year ago, someone on Twitter by the handle of @MVBramley tweeted to Ryan Reynolds, and he says, if Marvel forces you to make a PG-13 Deadpool, just copy the framing device from The Princess Bride and have Deadpool censoring it for a Fred Savage as a bedtime story. A kidnapped adult Fred Savage. There, I fixed it. Well, as we've seen in the trailers, that is exactly what is happening for a PG-13 release of Deadpool 2 that's coming out around Christmas time. So, of course, a lot of people are latching on to this idea saying, oh, this is great. This person totally nailed it. But then there's some other people that are saying, yeah, but if you look at this account only really popped up a short while ago, and it only had some other posts that basically kind of had to do with, some other things to do with like Deadpool and something about the X-Force and, about kind of the Fox-owned Marvel properties, and really hasn't done a lot. So some people are saying like maybe this is a plant. Maybe they did leak it that long ago so they could have this story to generate some buzz. And you know what? If that's the case, that's shrewd marketing. But I just love the fact that, if it's not and this is authentic, someone totally called it. Just totally out of the blue called it.
Yeah, I mean, I saw, so there's some Twitter conversation about all this, and I mean, I think it's really just two sets of people came up with the same great idea, but I saw the Fred Savage thing. It's just so perfect.
Oh, it's perfect.
I mean, I want to see it for that part alone. The rest of it, we've already seen the cut, so.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, really, there's not much else there for us, but it is a cool idea. And also, I know that the author who wrote The Princess Died, like, literally just died, like a week or 2 weeks ago. And so, it's kind of interesting that, that news has been released just right after he died. Just kind of the whole timing of everything just kind of seemed to, it's all kind of, in the know right now, right? So, anyway, so if you're up for a PG-13 version of Deadpool, go see it this Christmas time, Once Upon a Deadpool.
Or, what you could also see coming up soon, the Lego Movie 2. The second part.
Right?
I mean, that's the name of the film. I'm not making up anything here. But we're now getting to see a trailer for the Lego Movie 2, which I gotta say, I enjoyed the Lego Movie. I was not all crazy about it like a lot of other people I know, adults included. But the trailer for Lego Movie 2 looks pretty brilliant. For one, it's parody is a form of comedy that I appreciate, but I don't necessarily dive into, and that's really what the Lego movies and games are all about. But this one, just, I don't know, something about it seems pretty epic, and I think the puns are there, but not horribly overdone. So kind of excited to get a glimpse of this and see it with Morgana as well.
Did you draw face stubble on yourself? No. Wipes it off. Oh gosh. I thought the Lego movie was brilliantly written, very smart and very funny, and it seems like the second movie is going to be just a follow-up to that with great writing. And I'm excited. I loved the first one. I really did enjoy the first one. And of course my boys loved it, so they wanted to watch it a bunch. We really loved the Lego Batman movie as well. So I'm up for this. Like I want to see more of it. So do we know a release date on when this thing's coming? Sometime next summer, right?
Oh, sure. I actually got distracted by I guess last Friday on Black Friday, Warner Brothers actually released a Lego Movie all day on YouTube for free to be able to watch for everybody. But February 8th of this coming year.
February 8th.
Yep.
That's earlier than I thought.
Yeah, we'll have to go check that out. Actually, that'll be right around the time for my birthday as well. What were we going to go see on my birthday?
I don't remember.
Going to take me to go see something on my birthday.
Super Friends, this isn't the question of the week, but remind us old guys what we're going to go do for Stu's birthday. Because I know we did talk about it.
I'm going to be a grandpa.
I'm old and a grandpa. There's a little Abe Simpson for you there.
But I'll have to watch the Lego Movie again, which means then I'll get into a little bit of a Lego kick, and I'll have to play one of the Lego games, and probably go through the Lord of the Rings ones. I haven't done those yet.
Oh, you said it right. The Lord of the Rings Lego game. I know there's the Hobbit ones you can do and whatnot, but the Lord of the Rings one is like amazing. I love that game.
I'll have to check it out.
All right, so I've mentioned this before. I'm sure you and I have talked about this, but sometimes movies get a little long on the tooth with some of their naming schemes. You know, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. It's like, okay.
The Lego Movie 2, the second part.
Right. However, I think that's more of the parody, so like that makes sense. But the upcoming Birds of Prey movie, which is going to star Harley Quinn and some of the other ladies of the DC verse,
which are there as background characters for all intents and purposes.
Right. I mean, this is really going to be Margot Robbie's breakout DC film. Anyway, they've renamed the film with a longer extended title. And I'm going to read this to you and you tell me your thoughts, because to me, like the whole, let's tell a paragraph with a thing is just kind of getting enough. But so the movie now is called Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, I fell asleep halfway through. Can you repeat that?
I
get it. So originally what we believed was going to be the Harley Quinn movie then became the ensemble film, but then focus is lost on Harley Quinn, which they definitely want to have as their selling point to get people to see it. So how do you mesh those two ideas? Apparently by giving, a thesis in the title, I guess, but I think it's unnecessary. I mean, I think you could have left Birds of Prey alone. Everyone obviously caught on to Harley Quinn with Suicide Squad, and her name wasn't in that film title.
It's because she was all over that trailer, though.
Well, that's what you got to do again. Doesn't require a title change.
Yeah, I don't really like this title change, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. You could have just called the movie Harley Quinn.
Yep.
And it would have done the same thing instead of Birds of Prey, the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. It seems very unnecessarily wordy.
Or Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey.
Yeah. Or just Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey. Or, Harley Quinn, Birds of Prey, Dawn of Preying on Birds with Emancipation of blah, blah. I mean, just...
Suicide Squad 1.5.
Yes. Addendum to the first. Yeah. Just
To have the whole script be the title of the movie. There you go.
Jeffrey Johns, I know you're listening. So let me put this out to you, buddy. You can shorten this up a little bit. You can pull those reins back a little bit, and just call it Harley Quinn and the Birds of Prey, and we're gonna be okay.
We'll survive.
We'll make do.
If you change the name to something more reasonable, we will AMC stubs list it.
Twice. No matter what I think of it the first time. If I love it, I'll still go see it. If I hate it, I'll still go see it. That's my guarantee.
That is Spencer's guarantee.
That is Spencer's guarantee. If you shorten the name up, I will go see it twice in the theater, just on that alone. Yes, that's right, folks. You heard me. Twice.
Wow.
All right,
back, Spencer.
What else you got?
Well, I had mentioned the Humble Bundle thing, which for those of you who may not be aware, Humble Bundle is a service that originally it started with just Steam games. Now they actually do audiobooks. They do actual books. Mostly they're still just the video game bundles, but they do branch out into other things. And basically it's a pay what you want system. They give you the offer of whatever it is, and then you can donate however much you want. And a significant portion, I don't remember what the exact thing is, and it's difficult to find. They have it there, but basically a significant portion of whatever you pay for those games goes to charity. Some of it goes to the game, producers, publishers, developers, that kind of thing. But the rest of it goes to charity. So it's kind of like a way to get a bundle of games for a very cheap price while still giving to charity and paying the developers of games. So it's like a win-win-win. There's usually some really good deals of usually one or two AAA titles, and then a bunch of kind of lesser knowns and maybe one or two crap pot kind of things that they can't give away enough of, so they throw them in there. But it's usually a pretty good deal. And it's like they have this, you pay $1 or more to get the bulk of it. Then you pay $8 to get, some top tier stuff. And then every once in a while they have a really premium game or something that they'll have at the $20 mark that you're still saving half off of, kind of thing. So what I mentioned earlier was the Humble Bundle Monthly, which is where you pay a subscription. It's like $12 a month or something like that. And then they just automatically kind of add those to you. You do have to go redeem them. Note that, because I forgot about that for a good 8 months, and now I have a whole bunch of more games. So anyway, I don't usually think of this as kind of necessarily newsworthy per se, but they have going on for another 13 and a half days. They have the Humble Bundle board game bundle by Asmodee Digital. Asmodee Digital is kind of the big name in digital board game adaptations right now. They're really big in the board game arena. They bought up a whole bunch of other companies, including Fantasy Flight. So these are the guys that are making digital video games right now. Yeah. And this bundle, they tout it being worth $139. I would question that under most circumstances, and sometimes I have, just to make sure that it's not just, trying to fly under the radar kind of thing. But yeah, this is a solid freaking deal. Like I said, there's 13 and a half days left. It's humblebundle.com. For $1, you get Abalone, Agricola, All Creatures Big and Small, which is the 2-player version of Agricola. And if you haven't played Agricola, it is one of the premier grandfathers of worker placement games. Herald, which I've never actually played. Cult Express, which I have seen played and wanted to play, and that's kind of like a train robbery board game. And then Le Havre, the Inland Port, which is another worker placement with trying to manage resources on this port as you're trying to get ships out. Or if you go $8 or more, then you also get Pandemic, which most people who do any kind of serious board gaming know what Pandemic is. It's definitely top tier. Pathfinder Adventures, which I love the board game. I will not talk about the digital adaptation. It's terrible. Splendor, which is kind of like a popular small group kind of game. Kings and Assassins. Small World 2, which do you know about Small World?
Oh, I have Small World. So I love Small World.
That is Risk gone comedy gold. and plays so much better, quicker, and you have a whole bunch of different races that you can be with a whole bunch of different jobs. It gives you really this unique play every time you play with combinations of things that give you new rules for your armies.
Yep.
Twilight Struggle. Have you heard of that?
No.
That is probably one of the best known strategy 1v1 board games ever. It took it forever to go digital, but it's a very, very solid game. It's asynchronous.
Better than Stratego?
Much better than Stratego. Give me a break. I love Stratego, but that's a kid's game, sir. But it's you play the US or the USSR/Eastern Bloc, and you have different objectives depending on which one you are, and you have different cards that you can play. It's just such a great, great game that by itself is worth 3 times the $8 price.
If Russia's the only side that gets the nuke, and their plan is to build a nuke and then destroy everything, like in Red Alert, I'm in.
You should probably check this out then. It goes through the Cold War, and kind of like pre-Cold War, during the Cold War, and then the culmination of all that stuff. And then 2 games that I've really had on my list: Fighting Fantasy Legends and Fighting Fantasy Legends Portal. Back in the day when you had Choose Your Own Adventure books, they also had a bunch of different books from different book publishers that were not as well known, but were more gamey. Lone Wolf was one of them. I loved that one because it was like you kind of played it like an RPG. You chose the skills that you learned and everything else. Fighting Fantasy is kind of the same deal. It was like an RPG smashed into a Choose Your Own Adventure, and you actually had dice rolls and things like that. And so they've adapted both of those to an online world where it's not just the books, but it's also like game effects and everything else, but it doesn't take anything away from the books. The stories are still contained there. The fights that you would have in the books are still there. Those are the first things that are getting installed and played probably tonight. So all of those games, $8 for a donation to charity, is a smash deal. And I would encourage everybody, if you like board game adaptations of video game format, which I do because getting people together at 3:00 in the morning to play Pandemic just doesn't work well.
Right.
It's a phenomenal deal.
So, little side note on board games. Our super friends will remember a long time ago, Steve talked about how he loved the board game Fireball Island, The Curse of Volcar.
Oh my gosh,
yes. And he just loved that game as a kid, but couldn't find it on eBay. It was going for ridiculous prices. And there's been a company that's been going out, Restoration Games, and they have remade it. And I didn't tell Steve, but I had pre-ordered it, and I ordered him a copy. I didn't order one for myself because I'd never played it as a kid, and so I didn't have that nostalgia thing. But it was like $70, $80. And
did you kickstart it or pre-order it?
I kickstarted it.
There you go.
I
wish I had gotten in on that.
Yeah, basically it shipped and it arrived to him. I mean, his birthday was back in August, and I told him I had a birthday present coming for him, but it was late. It showed up a few days ago, and I got this text message. He's like, "You gotta be freaking kidding me. Seriously?" He's like, "You were the best." And then he shot me a picture, and he's like, "This is happening tonight." And it was the board game laid out in front of him.
Nice.
And he was holding up a couple of the pieces. And then he immediately sent me a picture of his kids all holding up pieces and, smiling. And so it had been something that I had been looking for on eBay for him for a while to see if I could piece one together for reasonable. And then Restoration Games did it. And so I wanted to let the Super Friends know that just happened this week. It was kind of my belated gift for his 40th birthday was to get him that. But they just delivered it. And so it was really cool. Like I was happy to do that for him and let him, recapture a little bit of his youth.
Yeah, that was a very hard to find limited run classic board game for sure. So he had no idea that they even remade it before he got that?
Nope.
Nice.
Had no idea.
Awesome. That is a gift, sir. Well done.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's one of those things where, every now and again you'll talk to someone and they'll be like, "Oh, I really wanted this," or "I do this." I try to make like little mental notes on those things. So if I come across something, yeah. Yeah, because if I come across something like that, whatever, it was like $70-$80. It wasn't like not that big of a deal. And it's my best friend who I've known my entire life, and it's something he'd been looking for years. And I had an opportunity to get it for him, and I knew he would not have seen it on Kickstarter. So,
yeah,
make hay while I can.
I wanted to get that so bad. It just happened to be in one of those times where it just could not fit in the budget, and so it came and went. So I'm glad that there was definitely some good karma that spun around the world on that.
Yeah. So you can go get that now. I believe they're selling it. So make note. Okay, the last thing I had to come back here to Rebel Intelligence. Stu,
Spencer,
are you gonna go see Aquaman?
I feel it's my journalistic integrity that I need to, not that I want to because I'm excited to go see the movie.
Well, if you are an Amazon Prime member, you can go see it a week early. How does that sound?
Unless that can work in conjunction with the AMC Stubbs A-list thing, then it doesn't. It's not newsworthy to me.
Yeah, that it will not. However, if you are an Amazon Prime holder and you wanted to go see Aquaman a week early on December 15th instead of the 21st, you can purchase up to 10 tickets on Amazon Prime. So you can go hit that up. It's going to be playing about 1,000 theaters across the country, so not everywhere, but it will be special screenings. So that's kind of a thing. Amazon's done this once before with another film. So this isn't like the first time they've done this. They did this earlier with Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle that came out, which my wife did remind me she wants me to buy because she really enjoyed that movie. But yeah, I think it's kind of cool that we have a company like Amazon that can do this and kind of make this happen.
They will be our new overlords.
Oh, for sure. All hail Jeff Bezos. Bezos. Whatever.
Olive oil.
Popeye? Nice. I was waiting for that. Anyway, that's all I got in Rebel Intelligence. Do you have anything else?
No, I'm done.
All right. Last week, Stu, we had our movie club. We talked about Bohemian Rhapsody. We talked about Queen. It's really interesting because our question of the week was, what's your favorite Queen song, or if there's a reason, something that sticks in your mind for that. And we got a lot of good responses this week, which we're going to read. But I got to say, as I was going back and doing the editing and I was listening to everyone's favorite songs, I went back and I was like, man, I want to listen to some more Queen. So I listened to some more Queen over the end of last weekend. And man, so many good options. I just want to say that again. So many good options.
Well, for me, this is this is nostalgia, listening to some old classics that I liked, and it's still going strong. But more than that, this is an introduction of a new band to Morgana, who is one of her favorites.
Yeah.
So this has become part of our normal music rotation at this point. We listened to a couple songs on the way to and from grocery shopping today. And that's just, it's expected. I know she likes my music. She likes metal. She's a good girl.
Nice.
But she has her own tastes, and this definitely falls more into that. She listens to my music because it's my music and she likes it, but she listens to her music because that's what she really enjoys and what she asks for. And so yeah, I'm more than happy to throw those tunes on, and it's just such good music, and it's awesome. And I kind of want to go see the movie again. I want to take her to see the movie. I know it's a bit adult themed, and I know the end half of it will probably be over her head, but even if it's just, for the music stuff, I think she would totally dig it.
Let me know if you go see it again, because I've really been contemplating going and seeing it again. And with the AMC A-list, Stubbs A-list thing, I could make that happen. So let's go to what our super friends had to say. And let's start where we always do, which is our email. Dear nerds, my children and I are in the golden ages of loving and hating dad jokes. So anytime someone uses the phrase low key, I respond with some sly reference to Loki, the god of mischief, Tom Hiddleston, etc. Dad jokes get it done. Congrats on getting LASIK surgery. Ooh, well, sorry, Peter. Congratulate next week. He says, I tried to get it a few years ago, but I have a deformation on the surface of my eye, so they wouldn't do the procedure. Now my nearsighted glasses are so strong now that I have to take them off to read.
Yeah, I'm kind of getting there.
Yeah. He says that I felt the same way about Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald as I did about The Last Jedi. It's an ambitious piece of storytelling, but we won't be able to tell if it's good or bad until we see the following movies. Yeah, Peter, I'm with you. I think that's right on the money. He says, my experience with Queen music has been more of experiencing other bands' interpretations rather than through Queen the band. I met Bohemian Rhapsody through Wayne's World, and the Muppets do a great version as well, which I highly recommend people going and watching, by the way.
Sure.
The Muppets version is great. He says, and I love Anne Hathaway's Somebody to Love in Ella Enchanted, but I'll share my personal favorite Queen story. I didn't have any older siblings, so I had to discover music on my own. This started around 1990 and worked backwards. There was a cool music store near my house in Tampa where I bought my music. One time when I was there, Under Pressure came on, and when I realized it wasn't Ice Ice Baby, I said to the music dudes, oh, I didn't know Queen used this tune too. The instant looks of scorn and disdain they gave me made me wither up inside and vow to never speak until I had more music knowledge under my belt. Thanks a lot, Freddie. Cheers, Peter Christensen.
Thank Vanilla Ice for that, not Freddie.
Right. I love that, though. Just like the way it reads to me, just like the exuberance of confidence, like oh, I didn't know they use this tune too.
There's a movie, and I wish I could recall what it was, and I don't think it was a movie of much notice, otherwise I would have remembered it. But there's a movie where somebody does that, and someone mistakes it for Ice Ice Baby, and the dude in the car that's actually playing it just kind of rolls up his window and all frustrated and drives off.
Huh.
Something like that, anyway.
I like it. I feel your pain, Peter. We've all made similar types of mistakes at one point in our youth. So you're okay. You're not alone. Let's go over to Facebook. So Caleb Albers says, I'm going to cheat as well. I'm tied for 2 songs for my favorite. My first pick has to be Under Pressure. Looking at you, Krypton. I love the build of the song's climax. The way the song is played and builds just gets me super amped. And the other song is I Want to Be Free. I've loved this song ever since I saw the music video for it when I was a kid. It made me laugh my butt off, and to this day I can't help but smile when I hear it. It also helps that it's an awesome song, but that can be said about everything Queen has released.
Nice.
Yeah. Lisa Stapleton Reed, who actually is my mother, chimed in, so apparently she does listen to the podcast, or she just reads Facebook.
Yeah, there you go.
Which is probably true. She says, Somebody to Love, because it's so much fun to sing along, to sing all the sliding parts, and Crazy Little Thing Called Love, because I can't hear the machine gun style drumming without doing a wicked shimmy. Hey, you asked. Thanks, Mom.
Nice.
I love both of those as well. I approve.
If my mom ever replies, I'm done. I'm moving probably to another country, just so you know.
Fair enough. Over on Twitter, Nerdish at dspin67 says, the 2 for 1. We will rock you and we are the champions.
I have that on the LP.
Got. Yep. I agree, because I can't hear those two without hearing one into the other. Like, I feel like you have to listen to them that way.
Well, the funny thing is so Amber and I were talking about how Morgana had requested that she make a Queen playlist with her favorites, and I was like, oh, let me guess, it's this, this, and this, and which included We Will Rock You and We're the Champions. And she's like, yeah, but I thought those were always just the same song. And it's funny because they're not, but they're often like put together. They were often performed live together. The LP has them together. What was the movie? There was a movie even where they were the theme. of that. And but anyway, yeah.
I think it's called Bohemian Rhapsody.
No. Actually, it did not have them together in Bohemian Rhapsody.
No, it actually did.
But yeah, I mean, they are sequential. They're not the same song, but they're blended in somehow that will forever be ingrained in. That's how they go.
Yep. It's kind of like peanut butter and jelly. It's hard to imagine one without the other.
Thanksgiving
back over
and
on Twitter.
pie. Just saying.
Ooh. Yeah. Christmas and cookies. Christmas cookies.
What a novel idea. We should make them and deliver them to people.
Yes. Tim Paulin at tpaulin20 says, going with a little underrated Queen tune. Crazy Little Thing Called Love. It's not original, but it's one of those that gets stuck in your head. I agree. There's a lot of Queen stuff that can easily get stuck in your head. That one easily gets stuck in my head.
I don't think that one's obscure at all, though. I mean, that's
not he's saying it's obscure, but it's not an original Queen song.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's a cover. Doug Cummings at DougC143 says, I'm going to be basic and say Bohemian Rhapsody. That was the song on my wedding night that my wife and I walked out of the venue to the limo to. That is interesting. I like that.
I kind of need to know where each of the parts of the song landed on that, though.
Yeah, that is true. Because like, if you're doing it kind of at the slow beginning part, but if you're starting with the Mamma Mia, Beelzebub has a devil put aside for, when it's building the climax right before the guitars hit.
Well, I'm just thinking
that could be kind of
Thunderbolt
cool.
of Lightning, very, very frightening me. And she turns and lightning goes into the sky and she's got vampire face on and stuff, I mean.
And all of a sudden we're in the middle of a World of Warcraft play session or something. I mean,
what?
Just saying. Which is also funny though, because I've been playing Queen music at home, and Jackson and Charlie are really getting into guitar music. So when they hear big guitar solos, they kind of scrunch up their little faces and they look like they're trying to hold a guitar, and they start kind of dancing around. But Jackson, man, he puts on this little face. I'm like, yep, he's got the soul of a guitar god, because he just you can tell he's gonna play metal one day. He just has that look about him. Yeah, I'm curious, Doug. Let us know maybe where Bohemian Rhapsody was playing when you walked out to the limo.
It matters.
Yeah, I'm really curious, Mama just killed a man. A little weird. Walking to the limo, getting ready to go to the honeymoon. Put a gun against his head. Here, let me get the door for you. Pulled my trigger, now he's dead. Goodbye, everyone. Waving back. And yeah. Just saying.
Oh, boy.
I'm curious. But if it's the building, the headbanging kind of part of that, okay, I can see that. Let us know. We do have a voicemail. Any guesses on who that's from?
It's going to be Mr. Paul Calico.
You are correct, sir. Let's give that a listen.
Yay.
Good morning, Fortress of Nerditude. Stu, Spencer, guys doing all right? Hope so. I'm calling in for the favorite Queen song. I can't really decide on one, guys. I even asked my wife, and she said it all depends on her mood. The Fat Bottom Girls, I Want It All. It all depends on how she's feeling that day, which one is her favorite song. And I kind of have to agree. Bicycle Race is a really good song, even though he says that he doesn't like Star Wars in that song. But that's alright. Not everybody could like Star Wars, I guess, but we won't hold it against him, right? I just can't figure out which one is my favorite. Maybe Another One Bites the Dust, or I Want It All is a good one. I can't make up my mind, guys. Anyway, that's my answer. I love them all. Anyway, I'm out. Thanks, guys. This is Paul Calico. Elstad.
All right, Paul Calico. Basically, Paul can't choose. I mean, do you fault Paul for not being able to really choose one?
Well, that's the thing. You have to choose. I mean, even with us cheating with two, you have to choose. If you're on a deserted island and there's only one Queen track and you got to choose it, what would it be?
So you're saying that we've got to put Paul in some sort of like question of the week purgatory now?
No more questions of the week until you come up with your favorite Queen track. We'll take 2. We all cheated.
There it is. There it is, Paul. You cannot respond to any other questions of the week. You're in question of the week purgatory.
No, we can't do that.
Give us
Otherwise, we'll get
2.
no voicemails.
No. Paul will come up with 2. He'll do it. I have a feeling. I feel like I know Paul's soul, and he's going to be conflicted, but he'll come up with 2.
It's a kind of magic.
It's a kind of purgatory. A kind of purgatory. You have to answer with 2 songs. Sorry, that was just literally live on the top of it.
Paul's favorite 2 songs. Paul's favorite 2 songs.
We want 2 songs. Okay.
There'll be more of that, Paul, if you don't oblige us.
We will do this every episode. We will do this every episode until we get 2. Listen, Super Friends, we love interacting with you. Even if you can't decide on your answer for question of the week and you give us an answer that basically is a non-answer answer, that is okay. We love hearing from you. We appreciate it every week. You can always interact with us at all the places we're at, which is our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. We're on Facebook, which is facebook.com/fortofnerd, Twitter @fortofnerd. You can get us on our voicemail, which is 801-477-7687. Or you could even respond to the question of the week over on Instagram now. And we're Fort of Nerd on Instagram.
What?
Just saying. It is a thing. Stu, how can our super friends help us out this week? Is there something that they could do?
Offer Paul Calicote suggestions for some of their favorite songs. Maybe get into some dialogue with him, kind of feel out what he likes about different things, and kind of eke that out of him. Meanwhile, while that's ongoing, they could also head on over to iTunes, give us 5-star rating there, where they can also offer, 5-star ratings to their favorite 2 Queen tracks. Paul, leave some kind words for us if you like. Just help us get the numbers up there, get us on some lists, do that thing that gets us noticed on iTunes and popular, and suddenly everyone will be super friends. But another way around that, if they're just not going to iTunes and getting that, is you can tell them about it. Have some discussions. If anyone's talking about Queen, especially with this movie, it's an easy discussion to have. I've been talking about Queen with several different people. It's an easy transition into telling them about the podcast and the movie club episode. Not just to get people to listen to us for numbers, but to have them join in the conversation with us, participate, become super friends. Because we want to get more feedback as well, and we want to hear what you guys are thinking. And we love it.
Well said. I agree with all of that. Except for that one part.
Which part?
Yeah, that part.
I feel like I've just been trolled and I still don't get it. I'm going to do a 360 and just walk on out of here.
Well, it was good seeing you, Stu. Welcome back. Okay, no, 360. Now you're back here. Good. So, Stu, I did something this last week. Brita and I were sitting down and we were going to watch like an episode of The Flash we were trying to catch up on, or maybe some of the Great British baking show on Netflix that we've been streaming again. But we sat down, and as I was flipping through Hulu, I ran across a movie that I haven't seen in many, many, many years, and I just really wanted to see it. And I asked Brita, I said, Brita, have you ever seen this movie? And she's like, no. I said, do you want to watch this maybe? And she's like, yeah, sure. The movie was Highlander, because we talked about it a week or two ago, and it was something that I remember really enjoying, and I remember it's kind of, it has that really kind of 1980s sci-fi kind of B-movie feel to it, with a really cool premise that I loved, and I was like, let's watch this. And as we were watching this, Brita kept continually saying, like, you got to be kidding me. This is ridiculous. There's a scene early on where there's like this fight scene in this parking garage, and the bad guy ends up doing like this backflip, and then he continues backflipping like the entire length of the parking garage to get to a sword that he dropped. And she's like, oh, of course, because backflipping is the most convenient way to get across a parking garage. She almost was giving it like the Mystery Science Theater 3000 kind of
Nice.
roasting. And I had to admit, like, I loved this movie when I was a teenager, but to hear my wife trying to watch it now and kind of roasting as we're going, like, I saw the humor in the fact that it does not hold up well. It's not going to hold up really well under scrutiny. And then, of course, like, it didn't make a ton of money. It became a bigger kind of cult following after the fact, but in its initial run, it did not make a lot of money. And then, of course, we all know, if you are a fan of the Highlander series, that the second movie that followed up with it is typically considered one of the worst movies ever made.
I love Highlander 2. I love Highlander 2, but it had nothing to do with the original plotline, which is why the third completely ignored the second even happened.
Right. I loved the Renegade version that actually filled out a little bit more to make a little more sense, the director's cut. But, so as I was talking with Brita about this, I said, well, let me ask you this. I said, if they would have had more modern graphics, if the special effects would have been different, if some of the plot issues that she had with, like, she's like, well, what's the prize? And I was like, well, you know, you're the last immortal, and then you have the ability to kind of choose whether you want to live out your life as an immortal or immortal, although that really gets fleshed out more in the second film than the first. She's like, well, yeah, the prize isn't really clear, and why are they gathering? And, like, some of the stuff was kind of there. The general idea, the plot structure of kind of this unique idea was there, but it really could have used some work. And then, of course, the graphics. And then, of course, it's like Christopher Lambert's like first movie he ever acted in. And so some of the acting was a little stiff and wooden at times. And she said, you know what? She said, Spence, this is a movie that could easily be remade now and could be done well. And it could go from being a kind of sci-fi kind of cult classic to being a more mainstream, widely accepted blockbuster sci-fi type of movie. And I kind of sat there and I listened to that and I went, I think she's right. And I said, and I think I'd be actually okay with the Highlander being remade or rebooted, basically. Skipping like the other 4 films that came after that thing, plus the TV shows and whatnot. None of them really made big money. They were all kind of cult classics in that kind of sci-fi. It's a sword and sorcery, type of a film from the 80s. And so that led me to kind of think, Stu, we talk about remakes a lot. We talk about how we feel like we don't need to have all these remakes. But if we were going to remake some films, do you think there's some films that you actually think a remake could be better than the original that you would like to see be remade?
Never! And get off my lawn! There are a few. And, if I'm being pressed, there are some things that I would love to see kind of a modern iteration of. The Highlander stuff, I love them as they are. And I get it, it's cheesy, campy. It also had a lot to do with the slew of movies that were all kind of epic fantasy at the time, to where, there were definitely some assumptions that any moviegoer would have going into that movie that would make a lot more sense then than it does now. And I could see that. I would actually love to see a modern version of Highlander.
I was thinking that too. And, so I loved Sean Connery in there as, Juan Villalobos, Ramirez. And I thought, couldn't Hugh Jackman be a really good Ramirez in a reboot? Because he kind of would have that older look to him now, because Hugh Jackman's got a little older, but like he could really play that character pretty well, I would think.
How about Danny Tennant?
David Tennant?
Danny Tennant, whatever. Danny! He's Scottish.
Yeah.
No, I've totally tried to pull like the only other famous Scottish person I know of out of my hat and flubbed it, so disregard. Yeah, I blew it.
No, I think Hugh Jackman could really be kind of good in that role, right? Someone who's experienced, who could pull off kind of this swordsman, has that.
Why not Orlando Bloom?
Believable. I think I'm okay not seeing Orlando Bloom in anything else the rest of my life. But that's just me. That's just me, Super Friends. Don't take that as like, the Fortress of Nerditude seal of approval of no more Orlando Bloom movies.
Fair enough.
So what movies, Stu, what movies I think would you want to see remade or rebooted that you'd be okay with?
Honestly, the first one that comes to mind was something that I thought was super popular when I was a kid. And now as I get older and talk movies with other people, that fewer and fewer people even remember that this movie existed. And it was Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Ooh, I love that movie.
That was the very first movie that I recall seeing, and I'm pretty sure it was the first movie I ever actually did see in a theater. We saw it in a drive-in, and that was just epic with all the bright lights and everything just washing out over all the cars that were there. It definitely added an element to it, and it had some real importance in sci-fi to begin with, and it was a pretty basic story, but it's one that's kind of been retold in many different ways. And I'm sure that's not even... It's really just kind of a different adaptation of War of the Worlds in one way or another, right?
For sure, yeah.
But I thought the way that the movie was being told was really well done. Dang it. Who was it that... Richard Dreyfuss?
Oh, yeah. Richard Dreyfuss, yeah, the actor.
Yep. I loved all the characters in this. I loved the story that was being told in it. And as a kid, even though it wasn't like really a scary movie, it scared the bejesus out of me. That was my first real introduction to the idea of aliens. Now, obviously, that's not what we're going to run into since, 30,000 different movies about aliens come out every year in one way or another. But that story being retold, and perhaps even with the idea of, we are now so desensitized to it because it's all over in the media, but we've just never seen them, that the actual presence of them coming actually means something. And we start having these, incidents and things like that where people are kind of channeling whatever energy it is in this music that might belong to it. I think the whole idea of it could be revisited with a modern take and make a lot of sense and be a really smart film.
Okay, I can see that. See, that's for me is like one of the classic sci-fi films in my mind, because it is about kind of the first contact with aliens and humans, and it's a slow burn, right? I mean, you don't get the real big payoff till the very end of the movie, which I feel like those type of movies have a harder time being successful now with kind of the culture we're in.
But they were all... But the slow burn was important, though. Like, everything that led to that was important to the climax.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that has to be there. I agree. But even with those things being said, I think you're right. I think something like that, I think Close Encounters of the Third Kind could be redone. Man, the score, though, for that film... Like you'd have to have some of that score in there to really kind of capture on that nostalgia.
And I will never forget those 5 notes either.
Nope. Yeah. Boom, boom. Right. Okay, I like that. If my dad were still alive, I think he'd argue with you because that's one of his movies that he thinks could never be touched. He loved that, but so I was.
Well, keep in mind, this is all with the premise that I don't believe anything should be remade. So there you go.
Right. So, yeah, this is
But Paul Calicote, I can come up with things oppressed.
So I thought of a family movie, Stu, that I could see being remade and being done well. It's a little movie that starred Rick Moranis, and I actually wouldn't want Rick Moranis to redo it, as much as I like Rick Moranis. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I think that movie could be redone now fairly easily, especially with some of the changes in technology. It can be done well and funny, and I think casting Steve Carell as the dad would be a perfect fit for that kind of tone of a movie with, kids that get shrunken by, a scientific experiment that the dad's got up in the attic or whatever. And now they have to, try to work their way back across the yard. You could change that, and you could, freshen up the idea. The kids have to, get back home. They were accidentally, picked up and taken, to the office or something, whatever. And, you could change that a little bit, but I think that there could be some really cool stuff done with a reboot of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
That would work.
So,
and Steve Carell is kind of like
film.
the modern day Rick Moranis, even though there's not like a huge generational gap between them. But yeah, I could definitely see that.
Yeah.
So, something else I was thinking about. One of my all-time favorite cartoons as a kid was Dungeons and Dragons.
Okay.
And now that Dungeons and Dragons is going through its 5th edition, it's back on riding a huge wave of success.
It's so hot.
It is so hot. Blows my mind. That would just be like the perfect way of kind of bridging that. Trouble is that we don't have Saturday morning cartoons anymore, so the format would have to be more digestible in like a Netflix format kind of thing. But I mean, to have a character of each of the major archetypes, having that kind of maybe even like how they have these major campaign arcs now, like the Return to Baldur's Gate was the first one for 5th edition. Having like a series of those dedicated to each of those campaigns, each of those campaigns runs for like 9 months to a year. I mean, that's the perfect kind of cap that off with the season, or maybe not even cap it off, like maybe a month or two in, where it's already been introduced, but it's still new enough that people could get into that campaign setting and maybe even have different characters for each setting. But I like the idea of having the same ones for each one, going through like Baldur's Gate and then Ravenloft. That's weird. And then Elemental Evil, but somehow making it work in the show. Yeah, let's do that. I want to do that.
I'd be down for that. I could get down with some of that. Yeah.
And you'd have to have some overly obtuse guy as the paladin or cavalier or whatever you want to call it. That's just completely ridiculous and being overbearing.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, I'd watch that. Okay, so I've got another idea. And you're probably going to think I'm nuts because this is
I
like
already think you're nuts. So
one of the holy grails of like 80s films, and it's a John Hughes movie. And the idea, I know, to some people,
I thought you were going to say
John Hughes.
I swear you were going to say Monty Python and the Holy Grail when you just said it's the Holy Grail. Or something.
No,
and then you said John Hughes.
No. No, The Breakfast Club. I think that The Breakfast Club could be rebooted, set in more modern times. And The Breakfast Club was interesting because it was about these, teenagers, these high school kids that were kind of dealing with their own kind of social struggles. You had the jock who had all the pressure from his dad to perform. You had the nerdy kid, who just kind of wanted to fit in. And, you had the kind of the popular girl that felt like, the Molly Ringwald who, kind of had it all, but apparently, had, her issues, kind of the girl that didn't fit in. You had the kid who was kind of abused by his dad, that just did not have like a good home life. I think you could take that and you could adapt it with some of the social issues that teenagers are dealing with now, right? Like you could have like bullying be one of like the things one of the kids is going through, or all the social media pressure, to make sure you're getting all the faves and likes, and all your friends online are following you and that sort of thing. You could also maybe like with the sports kind of character, you could deal with the fact that like kids nowadays are being drafted to the professional leagues right out of high school. And so you've got a kid who's trying to, balance that so he can, get into the pros and make money, to maybe lift his family out of a bad situation, that sort of thing. I really think you could easily update that movie with some of the social issues of today, and it would still feel relevant and fresh as The Breakfast Club did in the 80s.
I think you're crazy.
Yeah, I know. It's an 80s beloved movie. It's John Hughes. And
well, yeah, and we talk about the John Hughes movies and stuff like that. And there were the slew of those kind of high school / early college kind of movies that all kind of fit together there that I think was a necessary component for that to be as successful as it was. I don't know. And I guess the other thing that scares me with that idea is you go, like, you would have to deal with personal identity, assume genders, that kind of thing. And I just think that there's a risk of that kind of thing backfiring to actually alienate people in that regard because they don't want it necessarily so much to the forefront.
I mean, even if you didn't talk about like, gender identity, and those sort of issues, I mean, you could still talk about like race. I mean, that's been, a big thing, you could talk about, maybe, a family's, illegal, their immigration status, they're not naturalized citizens, stuff like that. And so like, I think there's a lot of issues that you could address, that you could still do stuff that would be relevant to today while also maybe playing it a little bit safe so you don't have to really run a risk of maybe offending a community of people. I think it could be done.
Yeah, but let's be real. You get all those kids in a library after school for detention or whatever, and all you're going to do is get a movie with 6 kids on their iPhones the whole time.
You may have a good point. Hey, there you go. Technology addiction kid.
Oh.
Just saying.
98% of them.
You're right.
And adults.
Okay.
It's not even front there. I mean, it's an interesting idea, and I think we don't have enough serious movies these days. Everything kind of fits so much into a pigeonholed genre that something like that I don't think would do well, but I think it would be a good movie to watch, but I don't think it would do well.
Yeah, you don't like it would be a critical success, but maybe not a box office success.
There you go.
Okay,
let's remake it. Let's see. Enough. That'll be an experiment.
Well, let's kickstart it and see if we can come up with the funds then.
The Lunch Club. Because
yeah,
we're not getting up that early for breakfast. I wanted to come up with something else, and I mean, I think you kind of hit on it with like Highlander, but one of those movies back then for me was Crawl. Do you remember Crawl?
Yeah,
you remember Crawl.
I do.
There are a few movies like around that era that kind of mix the sci-fi and fantasy together, a la Highlander.
Right.
And I mean, really, it could be like Crawl was one of them that I loved, but definitely would be completely irrelevant now. What was Beastmaster was another one.
Yeah.
Just, I mean, they're like any of those movies around that time, I think, to have a modern telling. I initially thought Willow, and then I thought to myself, that would be a dumb movie to reboot because that one needs to remain exactly as it is.
Yeah.
But yeah, Crawl, I loved Crawl. And I mean, it wasn't that it was a deep movie by any means. It was just really high fantasy with some science fiction in there and a really cool weapon and really cool fighting with demons and stuff. And something like that, just to take that and give it the same, it would be an entirely new movie, and you call it Crawl basically with some elements of the original movie just to appeal to the older people like me that remember the old one. But Flash Gordon would be another one, speaking of Queen. Yeah, Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers, any of those, like 80s, science fiction fantasy of the 80s stuff.
I feel like a lot of the 80s, because I thought about that too, a lot of the 80s sci-fi fantasy stuff, especially because of the state of like the effects and the CGI that we have now that didn't have there, could easily be updated with some more modern writing and better special effects, and could really like bring things up quite a lot. Like Dune, like I loved that book. The movie Dune is a steaming pile of garbage, so I would love to see that be remade.
I liked the movie, and if you haven't seen it, you need to see the Sci-Fi Channel version.
I've heard that was really good.
Yes.
I've got to try to find it somewhere online.
Yep. It is definitely worth a watch.
So,
it is a much better version, though I liked the original one a lot.
Yeah, I had a hard time watching it.
I have a hard time watching it now. I loved it when I was a kid. Let me be
right.
clear.
So I have one last one that I thought, and this also goes back to, I was talking about this a little while ago in our D&D group. I kind of came up with kind of a callback to this movie with something I did. And so then, of course, I watched the first and the second one, Young Guns. But I think if Young Guns were to be remade, It's basically the telling of the Lincoln County cattle war. It's Billy the Kid and his regulators. I think though this wouldn't be the best way. Would not be a movie to produce it and show it off. I think you make it into a TV series so you could have it serialized. I think you make it a TV show. Something HBO or Showtime or something like that. Even AMC because they do some great television. Something along those lines. I could see that being a really cool television show that could stretch out over a season or two or a few seasons even.
I want to say, I thought that idea was being tossed around at one time. I don't know that it actually made it to fruition.
I know that it was being talked about a number of years ago, but I think it withered and died on the vine. So, but I like that idea. I
loved Young Guns.
I loved it too. And I went back and rewatched them just recently within the last 2-3 weeks. And the first one's definitely the better movie. The second one's not as good in my opinion, but still a fun watch. So, yeah, I could see that being remade. Because the thing is with Young Guns, like you had a big cast. I mean, Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, Kiefer Sutherland, Lou Diamond Phillips, like all those guys were like kind of big actors around the time. So if you could do that, make some sort of series with either kind of young upcoming actors that are kind of getting a name for themselves or actors that have a name for themselves, and you maybe put it on Amazon or HBO or something with more money to pay some bigger name actors.
Or
that could work.
Or you give it the what was the name of that movie with Steve Martin?
Three Amigos.
Three Amigos. You give it that treatment. Give it the parody treatment of the Young Guns.
Ooh, yeah. Okay, I could see that too. That would be funny.
But
yeah.
No, I would actually like that. The actual idea, not the parody. I'd like the parody too, but
yeah. You have any others you could envision actually wanting to go see be remade or rebooted?
Not really. I mean, well, there's one that I want to get. There's one that I would have remade if I had the money and had the ability to time travel, and that would be Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Yes.
That was that movie.
It's a slog.
That movie doesn't fit with the rest of Star Trek. Yes, it was serious science fiction, but it was also fun. It looked like really just a 2-hour blown up version of an episode that really went nowhere. It tried to be I can't even say cerebral. It tried to be too much of that. And it just really missed the mark. It was not fun in any kind of Star Trek kind of way. And it really just was like, I wanted to just fall asleep halfway through it just to wake up and have it be over.
And Nicholas Meyer that directed Wrath of Khan really came in and changed the tone of Star Trek and helped to really shape it for what it would be for the next, foreseeable future. A lot of stuff goes back to that second movie in the way we look at Trek now and the way it's shot and some of the things that are done. So you're right. It does not fit in with the other films.
It doesn't fit in with the series either. It tried to take half an hour of content and make it a 2-hour movie.
And stretch it for 2.5.
And sort of just didn't even have any humor to it at all. Which, even in Star Trek 2, there was life. Yeah, there was no life in the motion picture. So I would definitely remake that with completely new direction, and I'm sure I could do a better job of it.
Yeah. I hear you. Well, super friends, you're probably asking yourself, man, what is the question of the week going to be? Or maybe you're smart enough to know that we're telegraphing this question of the week about a mile away. We want to hear from you. We want to know, what movie would you actually like to see be remade? Please let us know, because we want to hear. I think there's going to be a lot of really good ideas. And I think that there could be some controversy here, because we may get some movies that people want to see remade that other people, ourselves included, may consider to be classics that you just cannot touch. Like, I swear, if someone says Goonies, I am going to have to restrain myself, because I don't think that movie should ever be touched. I love it. However, it's your opinion, Super Friends, that we want to hear, and I will have to be okay if someone says that. So let us know at all the usual places. That's going to be our email, which is fortofnerd@gmail.com. Our Facebook, facebook.com/fortofnerd. Twitter @fortofnerd. Our voicemail, 801-477-7687. And also on Instagram, fortofnerd. And we will read those answers next week. All right, Stu. So, like I said, I think we're going to get a lot of great responses, things that we may have some discussions about. But I'm glad also, Stu, that we were able to record tonight. Like I know, like you said, we had to change our schedule a little bit, time zone hopping, and cross country traveling.
Welcome to the holidays.
Yeah, I mean it's going to be like this. We're going to have a conversation after we record about what we're going to need to do around the Christmas break, and then in February when I take a 2-week vacation and we'll be on a cruise in the Caribbean and not able to record. So we'll have to do a little bit of planning to make that happen. But don't worry, Super Friends. We will still put a podcast out both of those weeks, and we will not miss. So we'll just have to get a little creative.
We'll see about that. Challenge accepted.
All right, Stu. Well, once again, always a pleasure to be here in the Fortress of Nerditude with you, my man.
For sure.
Well, from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.